All right, so it all starts with Muhammad having that vision, creating Islam, and immediately, if you remember, just like all religions, again, we'll revise this next week, but they had a schism right after Muhammad died. And with that schism came the two sects, the Sunnis and the Shia. And with that caused conflict. So they were waiting to see how is this going to play out? How can they unify their people? And they did under what we call this Dar al-Islam. And there were two main dynasties to remember. The first one is the Umayyads. And there's tons of information on this in your notes. We have a really great flow map, if you remember from way back. The Umayyad and the Abbasid. Okay, so these two, both of them are going to be expanding, growing at this time. They go off to India, like we saw here. They're going to go to Africa. Most of Africa is going to convert to Islam. They're also going to be having conflict and war with the Christian world, which will be seen as the Crusades. So that's one thing, big thing to remember, expansion. So India, of course, we just discussed that. Africa. And if you remember, South Spain, Southern Spain, that city of Cordoba, was another one of their major cosmopolitan cities. Some of the conflict they encountered in this expansion was the Crusades. But keep in mind, with this Dar al-Islam, there's tons of innovation. So go back and look at your notes because it's going to be a question. What were some of the mathematical innovations, technological, libraries being built, major things to come up with? Especially remember, if you can remember about Suleiman the Magnificent. He was another, remember, the lawgiver, very tolerant, really promoting cultural innovation at this time. So go back, look at your notes, make sure you get enough details on that. The last one in our details in this topic is called the Mediterranean, which is going to incorporate many topics. Okay, so for the Mediterranean, some things to keep in mind. This is the former Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, basically Western Europe. So Western Europe is now kind of like gone over. For the most part, it was made up of Germanic tribes. And there are several Germanic tribes. And we talked about these, and if you'll go back in your notes and you'll read about them as well. So several Germanic tribes went in, basically took down the Western Roman Empire. As they took down the Western Roman Empire, they settled. They were all being kind of regional kingdoms, doing their own thing. But one of the tribes called the Franks, they were located in France, decided to have this conversion and convert to Christianity. When the Franks, his name is Clovis, converted to Christianity, he basically had an alliance now. So this gave him power. So the Franks became very powerful. They grew and they formed into what we call the Carolingian Empire, which had guys like Charlemagne. If you remember him, he's basically the guy who spread Christianity all throughout Western Europe. So that's something that was really important. But these Germanic tribes were all living there, doing kind of what we call a feudal life. And feudalism was going on. It was not centralized at all. They were living in a feudal lifestyle. Well, because of this feudal lifestyle, there wasn't as much power as a big, strong, centralized government. And what happened was many invaders came in. Invaders like the Vikings, invadings like the Magyars, the Bulgars, all kinds of people were coming in because they started to get powerful, right? When you get powerful and wealthy, you attract invaders. And what forced these feudal regions, basically they said, okay, if we want to be powerful and fight these invaders off, then we must unite. And they united under what we call regional states. And these regional states were things like England, France, Germany, Holy Roman Empire, and that continued on. In this Mediterranean area is also a time where they are clearing the land, developing trade, local trade. They're still not heavily involved in like overseas trade because they're still living in more of a local trade. But give them time and they will be there. They're still clearing the land, trying to make it, setting it up for farming. There's tons of farming that is going on. Religion is a huge factor. The main religion is Christianity. And where all of this is going to be done, Christianity will be everywhere. Some things that you want to know is the church is going to play a dominant role, and it's going to be very powerful. The monasteries are also supporting religion, is supporting everything. That's where the education is going to be done through the church. Over time, as we move into the higher Middle Ages, more education is going to emerge, and it won't just be about religion. It'll be about new things that are important because trade is going to be more powerful. Like now people might become a lawyer because now there's a need for contracts. People might become a judge because now we need to interpret these contracts. There's all kinds of new jobs that are going to emerge from this. Soon after the Crusades end, you'll see at the very end is the Ottomans are going to come in and the Crusades will finally end. And what will happen next? It will leave us out of the High Middle Ages with the Renaissance. So this is kind of a little bit of background of like what's going on. At this point, hopefully you would have taken your notes and sorry about that. You've got your timeline, hopefully. Here's my timeline. Now, I took a picture of it and I put it in the slides that I've posted for you. And some things that I wanted to come up with, I'm going through all the chapters. So again, look at those chapter notes. It's just very basic, some key terms that you might want to look at. But we already have our feudalism here from one of our mystery histories, but I was going through from each chapter, which ones are very important. Well, you definitely want to make sure you have the trade network. So I've got the Trans-Sahara, Cairo to West Africa, of course, Indian Ocean Basin, huge. The Silk Road starts way before this time period, and it was the dominant trade. But it started getting very, very expensive, very dangerous, and then over time, the Muslim world is controlling it, and the prices started getting very expensive, which is going to kind of be the reason why we move into the global world. Why are those explorers going? Because they're trying to bypass this trade network. Hey, if we use the oceans, it'll be faster and cheaper for us. This is too expensive. We need another opportunity. So we can't forget this. So then something from each topic, we've got Kublai Khan, who basically comes in and takes over China, sets up a Mongol dynasty in China called the Yuan dynasty. We can't forget about Mansa Musa, this West African leader who was one of the richest men in the world, took his famous pilgrimage to Mecca. What about the Crusades, which started way before this time period, goes on. And it ends basically with the sacking of Constantinople, creating, instead of Constantinople, it's now Istanbul. Got the Black Plague, traveling, of course, through the Silk Road, spread by fleas and rats. Gunpowder, which will also kind of lead us into modern warfare. And then the steel plow, which is going to basically revolutionize the farming system, providing enough food for those Germanic people. So here's just a couple things. You want to add more to yours. That would be great. Anyways, I hope this is helpful, and keep reviewing. There's tons of information, and I will see you soon.